I'm excited to build the first female unicorn in Miami.
Miami has a very special place in my heart. I was born here. You are really one of the pioneers in truly creating new infrastructure ways to protect the city and make it be the luxury, incredible, beautiful city.
I left behind my legal career. My community had a big problem with flooding, but nobody was doing anything practical about it. And so we came up with this really new idea of 3D printing seawalls.
You know what this is right behind me? This is a first of its kind 3D printed seawall that is now being installed in Miami Beach.
Let's talk about the luxury real estate space. How have you been protecting it?
I would say there's 3 selling points when it comes to our luxury partners. 1 is sustainability. 2nd is aesthetics. And 3 is a customization.
You have raised about $22 million in funding.
When I first was fundraising, I just literally Googled climate tech investors. I knew nothing about being a founder. I didn't know a single person who started a company, genuinely. I have yet to meet a single woman that works in this space. Men have been building this since 1904.
We talk a lot about luxury on this podcast, about brands, the experiences, the culture, and everything that pushes them forward. But we rarely talk about the physical infrastructure that makes it all possible. Miami has become one of the most important luxury cities in the world. Ultra-high net worth individuals are relocating at record speed. The brand residences, the flagship boutiques, the 5-star hospitality, the art fairs, the private clubs, it has all converged in this one city. But here is what nobody is talking about. Sea levels are rising and the water is not waiting for anyone. The coastline that holds all of this together is under threat. And the seawalls that are supposed to protect hundreds of billions of dollars in luxury real estate, hospitality, and retail have not been meaningfully updated in over a century. They are flat, toxic, and failing. This is where luxury sustainability stops being a marketing conversation and becomes an existential one. Because when the physical foundation of a city's luxury ecosystem is at risk, everything built on top of it is at risk too. The residences, the hotels, the retail boutiques, the entire value chain. I'm Carlota Rodben, your host and founder of Beyond Luxury, a strategic advisory and media platform guiding top leaders and brands on the future of luxury and beyond. My guest today is solving that very problem. Anya Freeman is the founder and CEO of Kind Designs. She is a former litigator who pivoted after witnessing accelerating floods here in Miami and decided that the legal system alone could not fix it. She is now 3D printing living seawalls that are structurally superior to anything this industry has been building, that restore marine life, acting like vertical sea reefs, that use neutral pH materials built in with sensors providing real-time data on what is happening in the sea. She has closed $22 million in funding, attracting high-profile investors like Mark Cuban. Also has won the Times Innovation Award of the Year and Fast Company's Startup of the Year. She is truly revolutionizing seawall permitting in South Florida and working on seawall projects for clients like the Ritz-Carlton, Mandarin Oriental, and the Fontainebleau. She has met with global leaders, including the Dutch King, to discuss Amsterdam's infrastructure and recently has closed a major contract with the US Navy. In our conversation today, we're talking about how the invisible infrastructure is protecting the ultra-high net worth world, why traditional coastline defenses are failing, and why the future of luxury in Miami depends on the technology that most people in this industry have never even heard about. Before we begin, if you're enjoying what we're doing here and what we're building, please follow, subscribe, and leave a comment. This is what allows us to keep opening up the conversation that usually stays behind closed doors. Whether you're a leader in the industry, aspiring to become one, or simply someone that wants to understand where the industry is heading next, this is for you. Anya, thank you so much for being on the podcast here today with us.
Super excited. Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited myself, especially because we are in Miami. As people that normally watch this podcast will see, it's a different studio this time. And I'm thrilled because Miami has a very special place in my heart. I was born here. And you are really one of the pioneers in truly creating new infrastructure ways to protect the city and make it be the luxury, incredible, beautiful city that it has been for many, many years. So thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you.
I want to start with how you got here, because I find it fascinating that you were a litigator, you were a lawyer, and you were doing very different things than being at the site, like you just told me you just got back from, which I absolutely love. And now your life has completely just switched, and you've been building a startup that has been named Startup of the Year by Fast Company and Times and a lot of other platforms. So tell me a little bit how that happened, how that switched, and what happened in your life that made you take this leap.
Sure. So starting from the very beginning, I'm originally from Ukraine. My family's half Russian, half Ukrainian. We moved to Israel, but the dream was always to come to the United States. And when I was a teenager, my dad got a job with the space program here.
Wow.
And so he got a special talent visa, and I got to come with my parents, my brother. We all moved to Maine, a small town. I was their first foreign student. They literally created ESL program for me.
Wow.
Very different than moving to Miami, I think, now. I got the special treatment, and just have always been super grateful to become U.S. citizen, always wanted to make the most of the opportunity. And my first stop was to go to law school. That was kind of like the American dream for my parents. I think a lot of immigrants can relate. You want to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer to please your parents. And that's why I ended up in Miami, because I got a scholarship to study law at UM.
Amazing.
And so I graduated. I was working as a litigator, prosecutor. I had a great career, obviously a great life, as we all do in our 20s, especially in the city. But then started to notice that my community had a big problem with flooding. Like, I'd be out with my friends, and if it starts to rain hard, we'd have to Uber home and move our cars out of the driveway off the street, because they would literally float away. It is so common.
Yeah.
And then I realized this is not happening to my friends in other cities. It's not normal. And there were endless conferences, there still are, to talk about this problem of rising sea levels, of flooding, but nobody was doing anything practical about it. And so in the end of 2024, to my parents' disappointment at the time, I left behind my legal career, and I launched Kind Designs with the obsession, the mission of finding that solution for my community, to making it something extremely scalable, duplicatable, so we can really make South Florida an example to the rest of the world of what's possible in coastal construction, because globally there's 507 cities at risk from flooding. And 3, we wanted to build something that was amazing for the ocean. So put together a team. Right away, we zeroed in on seawalls. Seawalls have always been the first line of defense to flooding. They have never been innovated. The first seawall we ever installed was in Galveston in 1904. It's exactly the same seawall you see in Miami today. They're super ugly, they're very expensive, and they're destroying marine habitats. And so we thought, how do we come up with a seawall that's more affordable, that's gorgeous, and what if instead of destroying marine habitats, the seawall was a marine habitat? How do we converge infrastructure and artificial reef science? And that's how we came up with this idea, and what we're doing at scale today in our Miami factory of 3D printing living seawalls.
That's incredible. So you're essentially putting vertical reefs in the ocean while protecting the cities and infrastructure.
Exactly. 2 in 1.
I love that. And especially because I think, going back to the fact that I was born here, I moved around a lot in my life, but I lived here again when I was younger in school. And I remember this project that we had to do of like this arts and crafts thing of putting Florida up. And I was living in Key Biscayne. It was an island. And so, we were very much aware that we were living on an island and that our school was on an island. And so there was all these talks about of course, marine life. That's one of the most important things when you're going to school, I think, in Miami when you're younger. And B, rising sea levels. And we actually had to draw in this project where potentially in the future, and I remember perfectly because my building was near the water, I had cut out that part, and I had showed it to my parents of our home won't be there when we're older. And so it is so impactful, I think, especially looking at, when you look at Key Biscayne or a lot of different areas in Miami where there's incredible luxury real estate there too. This is, when you're starting to build, this is one of the biggest things. And I think what you're doing without even noticing is really being able to allow a flourishing luxury city, that is really, in the past years, I think after COVID really began the boom of what Miami is today.
Exactly. By the way, FEMA does the map like that now. It's like a FEMA's rising sea level map, and you can put in your address and see how things look in 10 years, 50 years.
Ooh.
A fun activity.
Yeah, maybe a little bit scary, but fun too.
Anyways, I totally agree with you. I think there is this attitude, almost like fear-mongering messaging around rising sea levels. Basically, you have to be crazy to invest in coastal cities like Miami. We're all going to be underwater by 2060. There's nothing we can do. The Rolling Stones did an article that said literally, well, the title of the article was Goodbye, Miami.
Wow.
And I think articles like that sell, and that's in an easy way, for us to move forward, kind of give up. But at the same time, I think with the biggest challenges come the greatest opportunities. And it's much more exciting to think, what do we do to turn things around? And not only survive, but actually thrive and make Miami an example to the rest of the world. Because we're either going to be an example or we're going to be a lesson. So I'm very passionate about making Miami that example.
I love that. And I love that tenacity and determination you have to make this happen. Tell me about how your background as a lawyer has now helped you with having this competitive advantage over other seawalls and truly making litigation that allows you to be a first runner-up for seawalls in Miami.
Sure. So first, I'll just say high level what these living seawalls are. They are structurally identical to traditional concrete seawalls you see everywhere. But because of our robotics and our technology, we're able to produce them exponentially faster. That unlocks a lot of the economics. And instead of 3D printing flat seawalls, because of the resolution size of our robots, we can 3D print seawalls with a biomimicry design. So the wet face, the front of the seawall, always has a design that mimics local marine habitats, like mangrove tree roots or barnacles or corals. And the point is to attract native species, create caves where they can hide from predators, and it also dissipates about 50% of wave energy. So a regular seawall reflects wave energy. The living seawall absorbs that impact. So you reduce erosion and overtopping. So it's structurally beneficial. Is beneficial for the environment because as creatures attach, they're filtering the water, improving water quality, and it's very beautiful. And with all of those environmental benefits and other benefits, there's still no green premium. We went to market with a seawall that was price competitive to traditional concrete slabs. And so because there's an economic benefit to the community, aesthetic and environmental, we've been able to work with local legislators to pass code that would help incentivize living seawalls. For example, the first one was the Miami-Dade County. Now Mayor Eileen Higgins, she's mayor of Miami. At the time, she was the commissioner of Miami-Dade County. She passed a law which says that if you use a living seawall, you are exempt from having to perform environmental mitigation.
Wow.
So when you put in a regular seawall, because you're damaging the environment so much, you have to do a lot of mitigation. In Miami, usually they make you put big boulders in front of your seawall called riprap. And nobody likes them because you can't park your vessel close to the wall.
Right.
Collects trash. It's just ugly. Developers hate it, especially if they have a marina. And now we are exempt. And it makes our seawall actually cheaper than a regular seawall and much better functionally than a regular seawall as well. I think that was the first really instrumental piece of legislation. And since then, a lot of cities followed. For example, City of Miami, you get 50% off your building permit if you show a living seawall in your plans, because it's improving the quality of water for the whole community. And tonight at 6 p.m., there's a vote in City of Fort Lauderdale to do 100% off. You get 100% off your building permit application if you show a living seawall in your plan. So we're so grateful that the local communities and counties and cities have rallied around us and have actually passed legislation to help us achieve more and more impact through our seawalls in the community.
That's stunning. And also they are smart seawalls, right? You're putting sensors on them as well.
We've gone back and forth with the sensor. We started with sensors, and we got rid of sensors. The most difficult part about sensors is that to be calibrated very frequently. So you actually have to go to the site and calibrate the sensor. And also originally we thought we could use 5G to get the data live. But now it looks like more we have to go and plug in our device into the seawall to extract it. So we're actually looking for a sensor partner.
Okay, great.
If anyone's out there who has sensors that don't need calibration every 2 months and that it can use 5G, we would definitely love to partner up, because the seawall is a great location to collect data. A lot of cities, for example, their permits depend on water quality right at the coastline. So seawall is like the perfect real estate where you can place those sensors.
Incredible. And so going back to your background, it actually allowed you to understand that putting the right laws in place would actually make this be able to be as scalable and as impactful as possible in cities. No?
That's true. And I would say what has been an even bigger kind of point of connection between my old life and my new life is more like the storytelling part. So I was never a contract lawyer. I'm not a transactional kind of girl. I'm a big vision girl, not detail oriented, to be honest. I love to be in the court, in the courtroom. I love to be in front of a jury, a judge.
Right.
And I love this idea of like competitive storytelling, essentially. Like you tell your story, the other side tells their story, and then the jury decides, or the judge. And that is something that has been incredibly transformative, I would say, in the startup world. Because once again, I'm telling a story, but now it's to investors, it's to customers, it's to the team. And that has helped us grow very quickly. And I think because we approach things differently. You know, I think when I'm speaking, it's less formulaic. It's not, this is the problem, this is the solution. It can be a little robotic. But because I love that part, I love sharing what we're building. It's more like a TED Talk, if I had to compare it to something. It's more informal. And also, I have an unfair advantage that what we're building is really exciting, not just for us, but for a lot of people in the community. So it's easy to get people to rally around us, easy for them to want to join the journey as investors, as team members, as customers. And that really helped our growth.
Incredible. Tell me about, you've had some celebrity investors like Mark Cuban. Tell me about how your investment path has been. Right now, you have raised about $22 million in funding, which is amazing. Bravo to you. What has this journey been like, and how did you get the attention with your TED Talk storytelling abilities with all these very important people to make this happen?
I would say my journey has been non-traditional, and I think our team, we're kind of like the wild cowboys. We're not exactly the typical Silicon Valley startup by any means, and therefore we also attracted investors like that. When I first was fundraising, I just literally Googled climate tech investors. I knew nothing about being a founder. I didn't know a single person who started a company, genuinely. And so I was just looking things up and just shooting from the hip. And I would cold email these investors, and they would oftentimes take the call. And what I realized early on is that I was speaking to the wrong people. If you live outside, if you live in the middle of America, you're definitely not going to understand the threat of rising sea levels and flooding. If you haven't built your own seawall, or maybe you live in a building that has a seawall, you don't know how expensive they are, actually cost prohibitive for a lot of people. So what really made the difference was when I started talking to investors who live in Florida. They have a deep understanding of the market, of the problem, and they definitely understand the opportunity that comes with solving that problem. And so ultimately our cap table is made up of mostly Florida investors in the first round. We just closed $10 million on Friday, actually. That's a lot of New York investors. Incredible. But everyone's extremely strategic. Half the cap table is government people, like former mayors, former congressmen, former commissioners, lobbying groups.
Right.
And the other half is construction people in coastal cities like Miami, New York City, who are actually building things on the water and are putting us in their plans. So we don't really have like big climate tech VCs from San Francisco. It just never was a type of investor that was that interested in us. It's more investors who like to invest in like physical things, maybe construction tech. Yeah.
But the thing.
Exactly. And most importantly, investors who have a personal experience with the problem that we're solving.
Fantastic. That is so, you really like are spearing head in exactly the stakeholders that you need to have around you, which is a brilliant way to really raise smart money. You know, people that are actually understanding what you're building and then that can actually leverage or work with you in the future. How has it been to enter the concrete world? We'll talk about more of the luxury side in a second, but let's get down to, tell me about where you came from today and how has it been to actually, enter that world with players that are a lot of the times older men, right, that kind of have monopolized this world for a while because seawalls have not really been innovated in a really long time. So how have you navigated that space and how have you kind of made a name for yourself there?
Yeah, it's been so much fun. It's rare, I guess, to have, to be a female founder. It's more rare in construction. It is unheard of in the seawall construction space. I have yet to meet a single woman that works in this space. Men have been building this since 1904, building seawalls, and I'm very grateful to them. By the way, they have fortified our cities and have done an amazing job. So I came into it with tremendous respect and really wanting to learn from people who've been doing it for generations. Almost every seawall contractor, these are the men installing the seawalls, almost all of them are generational companies, third generation, even fourth generation. And all they do is install seawalls using barges, using cranes. I could never do that. So first and foremost, we came in and we brought them onto the team as investors, as advisors, and learned as much as possible. And I would say something else that helped, although you approach it with a lot of respect, but you also, I think, as an outsider, can have a very fresh point of view.
Right.
It's always better not to know all the obstacles. Because I was like, why can't we
be a little bit naive?
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so we came up with this really new idea, something that's never, to this day, has not been done, of 3D printing seawalls, A, and B, of incorporating the biomimicry design. And I do think that is more of the female lens. Like, how do we make this product more beautiful? Gotta make seawalls cute. And two, how do we make it more inclusive, meaning inclusive not just of the community, but the sea life. And I don't know if men really think like that. I think men are just more straightforward. Like, we need a seawall to protect the city from flooding. Done. And they've done a good job with that. And we've been able, through a fresh perspective, bring it to the next level of how do we add these other elements to the seawall that benefit the community of humans and of marine life, and also make it more affordable.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. And I think that what comes in here as well of the aesthetics and this sustainable side of it, of actually reincorporating it back into nature, is a really important point, I think, to talk about. Because a lot of times, in going back into the lens of looking at this as actual protection for luxury real estate, for all the luxury retail that is coming down here to Miami, for all the ultra high net worths that are building multi-million-dollar homes in different parts of Miami on the water. Of course, because you always want to have a home on the water if you're going to have it in Miami. The big marinas and hospitality groups that are doing residences that are branded residences, but also their own hotels, like the Mandarin Oriental that you'll tell me about in a second. And, I think what is really beautiful is to talk about sustainability in this really practical and cost efficient and very, it's an infrastructure ready kind of way to implement it, because we've had this wave of sustainability being a lot of greenwashing in this space. And especially when you talk about it in hospitality, when you talk about it in retail, in all aspects. And I find that Kind Designs is a brilliant example of how this comes in such a purpose-driven way, where there's like no other option in the end when you just see all the data and the stats of how you built it. So I think that's a very important mark to put on there. And then also, I want to, before you tell me about the whole hospitality space, how you're doing it there, I want you to talk about the 3D. How did you even think about that, right? Like doing 3D printed walls. Had you seen a 3D printer before? Did you go and did you know you could do that at that scale? I've watched 3D printers do smaller things before, but a wall that is going to be there for years and years and years. How did you think that was even a possibility?
So 3D printing became popular for small custom components. Like if you go to the dentist, sometimes they 3D print different things, or for hearing aids. And then in the last decade, there was a movement towards large-scale 3D printing, specifically for houses. Actually, China started doing it first, a company called Winsun. Then Europe, and then US was very late to the game, most prominently through Icon, which is a very large startup in Austin, Texas, that's 3D prints affordable housing. And printing houses is very sexy, I would say. They attracted tons of investors. It's amazing they're able to do houses in a more affordable way. But I didn't know if it was the best application of this technology, because when it comes to a house, you can't print everything. You can't print the plumbing or the electric work. You can't even print the roof. And so we were thinking, what's a better application of this technology? What if we just did a wall again and again and again? So we have a factory style 3D printing process, very different, because when you print a house, you print it on site. So you actually take the robot to the construction site. It's called a gantry type robot. You set it up and you can print within the parameter of the robot. We have an indoor factory. We now have 4 robots. We'll have 6 in the next quarter, and they're printing nonstop, basically seawall after seawall after seawall. So it's a great application of the technology, because we print the 100% of the product can be produced by the robots. And we have such freedom of design that we can then leverage to incorporate biomimicry or some of the custom designs we're doing for hotel groups that was previously unachievable. So that's why 3D printing was the ultimate solution for the product that we wanted to produce.
Incredible. And how much is one of these printers, for example, to purchase?
We purchase components, and then we do a lot of customization.
Okay.
And a lot of our innovation is around the process, the method of manufacturing, like all the different steps. It's almost like manufacturing a car. If you come to our factory, that's what it looks like. It goes from one station to the next station to the third station. All in, I would say, one kind of production line with all the robots and everything is a few $1 million. And it can create 3 times that in 1 year in revenue for us.
Wow. Incredible. And how many people do you have right now on the team?
We're still 10. Yeah, very lean. 10 humans, 4 robots. Soon to be 6.
10 humans and 4 robots. Soon to be 6 robots?
Yes.
Incredible. And where is it? In Miami?
Literally 10 minutes from here. We're in the Miami River, next to the airport.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, so let's talk about the luxury real estate space. How have you been protecting it? And what are the, the key levers that you've been pushing, especially when talking to real estate developers that are more on the luxury side?
I would say there's 3 selling points when it comes to our luxury partners. One is sustainability. Some of these groups have sustainability goals. Some of these hotels are very focused on sustainability. The second is aesthetics. The living seawalls are beautiful. A regular seawall is hideous. It's crazy. You see a $40, $50 million house or a gorgeous hotel, and it has this flat concrete toxic slab for a seawall. What we do is much more beautiful. And 3 is a customization. So we also work with hotel groups or luxury buildings to create a seawall that matches the aesthetics of the brand or the aesthetics of the building. And that we just did a project like that, for example, with Pagani. Do you know the Pagani?
Yes, of course.
It's like a $7 million car. I've never seen one.
Yes.
Even in Miami, I've never seen one. So they're building a gorgeous building, and the seawall that they've commissioned matches the aesthetics of the building. It's a continuation of the design. It's going to be gorgeous.
And is there any point where you get to appreciate the wall when you're looking at the building?
Yes, when you pull up on your yacht.
That's a good point.
Yes,
Yeah,
you feel very
definitely do.
appreciative in that moment.
Right. And is there any other place that you're showing it in these buildings at all?
So developers, when they put up big projects, high rises, for example, in most counties like Miami-Dade, they have to contribute towards public art. Usually it's 1.5% of the budget. And so we are working on a project where the public art is the seawall, because technically it's just a blank canvas. One. Two, as the owner, you don't get to enjoy it like you were saying. You don't actually see it from your own windows. It's a contribution to the public. Anyone on the boat can enjoy it and see it. They can go on a tour of all the sculptural living seawalls. And so
That's a brilliant tourist idea.
Right? Wouldn't that be
Yeah,
fun?
go tour the sculptural seawalls of Miami.
And we're looking at collaborating with big artists so they can come up with their own seawall. So truly, it's a blank canvas that we can now paint through our technology by collaborating with artists. And developers can save money because they had to contribute 1.5% anyways, and they had to put in a seawall. So now two can be the same.
That's amazing. So you're actually adding on to the culture of this city as well.
Oh, yeah, that's really exciting for me. Definitely.
That's so exciting. And when you talk to most of, so you're doing Mandarin Oriental in Brickell Key, which they like dismantled not too long ago, right? Which is pretty shocking. I come to Miami every, I think, couple of months, and last time I was here, I was there. And now I look and there's nothing. So
Yeah, it was a big party for the demolition.
Yeah, were you there?
No, but my team was there. They were filming. It was very exciting and very loud.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. I was like, I hope that they probably told everyone else that this was happening. And so Mandarin Oriental, you've mentioned Ritz-Carlton. What other big hotels or residences that you're doing? You mentioned Pagani. Are you doing for Miami at the moment?
Another one, the next one is going to be the Fontainebleau.
Amazing.
Which we love. It's an iconic hotel in Miami, and they own a big marina right on Collins Avenue where the boat show is. So there's going to be a lot of visibility for this project. We're super excited, and we got in the plans maybe over 6 months ago, and they're just about to get their permit. So we expect to start 3D printing those seawalls next month. It's going to be a busy summer.
Yeah, and then actually yacht marinas are essentially a place where you can actually appreciate maybe the seawalls a little bit more. So that will actually be very exciting for you guys.
Definitely.
How long does it take to build from end to end seawalls for a marina, for example, like the one around Fontainebleau?
So our 3D printing process is extremely fast relative to traditional process, which is called precast. So if you're doing precast method, it takes about a day to make a small batch of panels, seawall panels, and a month for them to cure before they reach strength and they can be installed. What we do is very different. We have the world's fastest concrete 3D printers. We're printing the same size seawall panel in 1 hour compared to a day. And it cures fully and can be installed in 3 days versus a month. So it really helps expedite the construction process.
Wow. You really were onto it and made it work in every lateral.
Right? There's no room to say no to us.
There's no room. I can't. I see very clearly why Mark Cuban said yes immediately.
Thank you.
Looking into, I know that you have a very exciting also contract with the U.S. Navy, which I think is, when I was thinking about everything that you had built, I kind of paralleled it to space in my mind. And when you started the conversation talking about your dad coming to the U.S. for space, that is, a very interesting parallel, because I think that defense and innovation for defense always, may it be defense in space as we saw years ago, or may it be a defense with actual infrastructure for defense on rising sea tides is very, very important for the defense of a country. It's interesting how this technology now you're spearheading onto potentially being the people to look at for not only inside of the country of the United States, but also outside, right? And so I think it's brilliant to think of everything that you've been doing, but with Navy especially, how did that happen, and how are you helping also secure Navy bases? Well,
the Department of Defense was always a target for us. It's just very aligned with our culture. If you come to our factory, we have a gigantic American flag. It's literally the biggest one that you can buy online. I'm just very grateful, to be an American. I've always wanted to contribute to this country, and to me, contribution to the Department of Defense and coastal bases feels very exciting. And we got this contract first. We won phase one. They give grants, R&D grants, basically. And with that grant, we sent our living seawall panels to DC. The Navy has a research lab there. And they put them in the big Olympic-sized pool, and they simulated waves, wind, hurricanes. And they tested not only for wave dissipation, which I mentioned. The seawall is structurally superior because it dissipates or absorbs wave energy and reduces overtopping. But they also were tracking the reduction in aerosols. So basically, when a seawall sprays over the seawall, there's a lot of salt water that goes all over everything. And when you have assets that rust in a coastal base, that's a big problem. So our living seawalls performed extremely well in those tests. And as a result, we then won this contract. So the contract is going towards a living seawall installation right here in Broward County. There is a submarine testing facility. It's a Navy base that's 20 minutes from our factory. So we're excited about that. Yeah. But in addition to that, the contract is also towards building a container system. They basically gave us a 20-foot container, shipping container, which is very small, and said you have to fit your entire printing suite into this container. The robots, the mixers, the hoses, everything, so that you can then ship this container to Guam or to Asia, and a person with no 3D printing experience, just some basic construction background, can open the shipping container and start printing within an hour.
No way.
Yes.
That's crazy.
So Charlotte on my team is heading that effort, and it's so much fun. It's never been done before. So we're pioneering a system that's going to help not just U.S. bases, but bases all around the world.
That's brilliant. That's so exciting.
Yeah, it's fun.
To have to, that's crazy. I haven't heard I think that's that's such a cool mission to be on.
Thank you.
I love that you mentioned how proud you are of being an American. I want to go back deeper, though, through those roots. So you were talking about you have a Russian-Ukrainian background. I had the big pleasure of being in Ukraine last year for Vogue Forces of Fashion and meeting so many of brilliant Ukrainians. And I also lived in Russia growing up as I was a ballerina. So I have big ties to both of those two places. And I ended up living there for a year and learned how to speak Russian, and I lost a lot of it, but
I understand. I also lost my Hebrew. You have to keep it up.
It's really hard to keep up languages when you don't use them.
You need a Russian friend.
Yes, I do.
Helps.
And also I think here in Miami you can find a lot of Hebrew friends that speak Hebrew
exactly.
as well. But anyways, going back to your roots, how does that play a role today in the way that you look into? I mean, I completely see the Israeli startup spirit in you. But how does your other background kind of come into play and tell the story at the same time?
It gives me a sense of urgency to make the most of every moment I have on this earth in America. My family and friends, both Ukraine and Russia, have completely different lives than I do. We're the only ones from my family who were able to leave. I have friends of my family that live on the 35th floor and they haven't had power in years. They're going up and down the stairs with a baby, 35 floors. All the kids have been at school on Zoom for 5 years, but there's no power half the time. And so for me to be in the U.S., to be completely free, to be completely safe, and not do something massive and impactful would have been such a huge waste of the opportunity that my parents in this country gave me. I think the biggest impact that my background has on what I'm building.
That's so powerful, especially, having had a tiny glimpse of that experience, literally a tiny glimpse, like 3 days being in Kiev last year, just gave me so much of a visibility on what a life there could be like. And it's definitely, we have that mandate to
Exactly.
do it better outside, or actually be able to use that freedom and that ability to feel that nothing's going to happen to you at night is going to be something that should, motor us all. And I think that's the biggest thing that I took away when I left, which is brilliant to see you do. When you look at 2030, and it's right around the corner, what do you see for Kind Designs? Where do you see it go?
First publicly traded seawall company.
Ah, that's good.
Done.
I love that. Boom. And what more? What after that?
Well, I'm excited to build the first female unicorn in Miami. We've never had one. Once you build one, it's so much easier for others to follow in the footsteps because you normalize that. And you prove through your own success that something really meaningful can be created in the city, which attracts more investors and attracts more talent and gives female founders more belief in themselves. I think it's very counterproductive, the messaging around being a female founder, which is always that women get way less funding than men. I think there's a statistic like last year, women got only 2% of the VC funding. But I think spreading that message does not encourage women to start businesses.
Right.
I think as women, we are already much more risk averse than men. And if you are not sure, should you go for it, should not go for it, and someone tells you have very low chances of succeeding, why would you start?
Right.
So I'd rather hear about women who are becoming super rich, women who are becoming really successful, building great companies. Like those are the stories that I want to read about, and that's the story that I want to become myself, and I want my company to become, to inspire others and normalize it, because I was not someone that had any connections in the startup world. I had no experience at all. I didn't have the right education. I honestly thought that being a founder meant you have to be like a coder. I went to law school. I don't code, but I was able to put together the team that had the missing pieces. And together we've been growing so fast. And so I want other founders in general to see that you don't have to have the perfect education. You don't even have to have the perfect idea. You just have to have an obsession and be able to attract a team that can fill the gaps. And together you can achieve massively impactful missions in a city like Miami.
Incredible. Do you have any women investors?
I did in the first round, interestingly. And this last round, yes, I have amazing women, mostly in New York, some in Miami as well, who have been so encouraging, made amazing introductions for me, and are a big part of our growth.
That's brilliant. And then when you look at the investors that have invested in you now, and you were saying that they were mostly Florida-based, do you see that there's a lot more investors coming as well in Miami? I think Miami has now started maybe to be seen as also like some sort of smaller, sort of like startup nation in a way.
We're trying.
Yeah. And I think like several years ago, there was a word, the startup nation vibe that was coming from Israel to Miami. And I think that's a really good push, especially because it's such a hub with Latin America as well. But it's great to see how, there is funding here. And a lot of people a lot of my founder friends have moved to Silicon Valley because that's where the funding is. And that's where people will understand the dimension of what you're building and the potential traction that it could have. But you are really working with a local problem, and well, I could say a global problem, right? Local, but also exists globally everywhere. And bringing that talent here would mean also that because also there's so many ultra high net worths moving here, it's becoming the hottest city. It's actually now surpassed the growth of New York as the growing luxury city in the U.S. So that means a lot that all of these people are moving here. So that means also that there's big money coming here that is available to founders working on important and problems that they want to solve.
Exactly. We usually meet these high net worth individuals as customers first, because when they move here, they have to do their seawall.
Right.
So you think like seawall is not really like a sexy kind of company or business, but we get to interact with these amazing people, anyone and everyone who's building things on the water. So, and then, they learn about us and they will come in as investors.
Right.
So there has been a big movement. I think this is the second wave. The first wave was more crypto, which was a flop. And now it's more real. And it's attracting people building physical things like us. I think that the success we've had with the local legislators passing codes to help us is something that has been very promising to other companies that want to come here and build, but have been nervous about the bureaucracy around, the permitting process and getting government contracts. But ultimately, our experience is something that you can only dream of in California. There's no way in California within 1 year you're going to change the entire building code and the seawall code that hasn't been touched in 40 years. But we did that here in 9 months. And then New York, the same thing. So I think in Florida, there's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of flexibility when it comes to government. When you get the right champions inside local government, you can get a lot done and you can optimize the code to benefit your products and your vision. And now we're doing this at the state level. So Governor DeSantis just signed the bill SB 302, which says that by July 1st, the state will come up with a list of incentives for 3D printed living seawalls. So the success that we had locally is now being replicated at the state level through a governor. And that's
phenomenal.
Really amazing. We're also working with a former governor of Florida, Rick Scott. He's now Senator Rick Scott. And he is putting policy language and an appropriations request to the Department of Defense annual spending bill. So all of these people, all of these champions are Florida based. And I don't think you could find something like that anywhere but here.
Phenomenal. And when you're looking at all of this different, I guess, conversations and stories that impactful stories from data and what you're building, and that takes a very big superpower, which I think, yes, Florida has, I'm sure, been very, very good for this process, but it also takes a very strong storytelling behind that, and that most likely has been you. So I think that that's also an ode to the way you're doing it and the way you're approaching it, and this aura and tenacity that you're showing people of where it could be and how to be an example, right? I really like how you've talked about how to be an example as a female founder, but also how to be an example as a state and a city that is using seawalls, and how that can, set example for the rest is such an important, thing to just carry with one. And I think it's beautiful the way that you're doing it.
Thank you.
Before we kind of wrap up, I would love to go through some closing questions with you that I always ask my guests. I think the first one is, and especially because you're not exactly from this space, I think what is brilliant about what you're doing is that you're safeguarding, you're protecting, and you're allowing to foster a luxury city, real estate, retail, experience, lifestyle, right? What you're doing is actually protecting what is the playground of all of this to grow. So I'm super interested in your answer to what luxury is to you.
Well, no one's ever asked me that.
I can imagine.
Luxury to me, it's a treat.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, you really stumped me. But a treat meaning like when you get to stay in a luxury hotel or have a luxury experience or a vacation, it makes you feel a certain way, And actually for me, I would say that balance is very important because I'm at the construction site most days, or in our factory. The boys are 3D printing with concrete. It's total chaos. It's a boys' world for sure. And for me to maintain balance and stay, true to my more feminine side, I would say actually luxury experiences is what has allowed me to bridge that. Whether it's going to a nice spa, having like a staycation for a weekend, that has been extremely important for me to, as I grow the company, as we get busier and busier, it's been important, a big way for me to stay connected to myself. and to treat myself.
Yes. Treat yourself, have a moment of reset, and you're so on the go with all these big things. You know, you're working on very big projects, contracts, and things, because these walls are massive. So,
literally.
literally. So, yeah, keeping to yourself and having that's beautiful. That's really, that experience for you and for that connection with yourself. So then you can, again, be the best version of yourself for others, is bringing that towards you. Great. And I know you've probably never been asked that question. Most of my guests on this podcast have been asked that question.
Yes.
So, but I'm glad I got you on that one question, because
Yes.
all the rest of them are so beautifully formulated. In, I guess, the next 5 to 10 years, how do you see Miami as a city, first? And second, how do you see it as a city if these seawalls are not implemented?
I see Miami as continuing to be the greatest city on earth. And a lot, depends on future elections even. It makes such a difference. Who is the mayor?
Right.
Who is the governor? Definitely. That made a big difference for us during COVID. Like, we were not locked up for as long as some other states were locked up, which helped some businesses thrive. But they would have had a hard time in other states, just as an example. So it depends on who is in charge. But if we continue down this path, I think that with every year, it just becomes a more and more attractive city. And I'm very committed to changing the identity of the city. I think Miami has always been famous for a place to go to have fun. You get a table at Live or whatever, with your girlfriends. But I want to show that it's also a place where you can go and build something very meaningful. There's also a huge part to Miami, which is all people, cyclists, people going out on boats. It does attract very active people, active families. Coconut Grove has grown a lot and attracted a lot of young families. So as I see Miami continuing to be extremely attractive to people around the world and continue to expand its identity beyond a party city to a city with much more depth and opportunity.
I think I even see it, in these days now. You see like all these conferences coming here, a lot of wellness tech, as well, a lot of climate tech. Thinking of where the future is going, and you're right. There was a moment of a lot of crypto bros here, and I think they still are here. And there is value in that in some places, but I think that there was a lot of that for a moment, and then it has kind of opened up to incredible hospitality experiences, incredible residences, art. Always with Art Basel, but art has really brought it now, in culture and bringing all of these kind of things. That's why I think really there's a space for seawalls becoming art in and of themselves. But it's nice to see the evolution of Miami. When I was living in Key Biscayne when I was growing up, Brickell was not high rises. Brickell, I mean, I think every time I come, I'm like, there's 3 more buildings up. Like, how, when? And so it's like a mini Manhattan now. And I think that there are, as you mentioned, Coral Gables, Coconut Grove, there's all these different areas of Miami kind of coming up as well in their own identity and in their own way of showing up, which is really interesting. And hopefully it can live for many, many, many years longer without that map hiding
The FEMA map.
Oh,
yes.
the FEMA map that I'm gonna go explore later. We don't want this place to go out. Also, there's a lot of, I think, misconceptions in what it means to work in different industries, and you've mentioned on some of them. But what are some of the misconceptions that you see or that you hear of working in the space of infrastructure?
Well, I would say just in general, I think construction talent is very undervalued. They're the ones they build this very room that we're sitting in, and the quality control that goes into that is so important.
Right. It can't fall.
And they deserve a lot more respect than they receive. I love, actually, this is very surprising, but I love hiring people from Craigslist. Like the robot techs. And that's because, first of all, it's hard to hire nowadays in general. The people graduating, they're like, I want work-life balance. I'm like, what's that? No, you're not going to be a pioneer going on vacation every other weekend. So I found a lot of success looking at these like really true construction guys on Craigslist who have experience with concrete, building a lot of physical things, whether it's steel, with wood, and they're so trainable when it comes to 3D printing technology. As long as they have that talent, that ability to use their hands, they have that strength and that work ethic,
Right.
we can train them to be incredible 3D printing technicians. They have added so much value to Kind Designs through their work. That's half our team. And ultimately where I found them was Craigslist. And most of them are immigrants. And maybe like our lead designer, he's incredible. He was an architect in Colombia, but when he came to the US, he didn't have the right certificate to practice here, but he also had a construction background. So he was just one of 1,000 guys in a construction site. And we discovered him, I would say, or he discovered us. And in just a few months, he became this amazing 3D printing tech and ultimately our lead designer. And he's achieved things in 3D printing that was unthinkable just a couple years ago.
Wow.
So there's a lot of that talent in Miami. We're lucky to have a lot of immigrants in the workforce who are willing to work hard. And that's very difficult to find in other markets.
That's a brilliant one. I ask this question to most people in their own industry, and this is a brilliant misconception because it also opens my eyes on this. And I think that one of the sides that we didn't really touch on was skills and how to train people and hire people into a company like yours, and you just responded to it. And I think that gives a lot of hope and vision for people that are looking for, trainable. As of today, everything is moving so quickly that hard skills are almost obsolete, like in a second. So sometimes even weeks, like you know how to do something really well on AI, and then a few weeks it all changed, and you need to just be a really good learner and really have that like grit and passion to go towards it. So I love that that's how you're integrating that into your very physical yet also very technical, right? Because I assume that you're also using a lot of softwares and design to be able to.
But that can be taught. I think beyond just skills, it's also culture. The bigger the dream, the more important the team and the team culture. And I'm extremely specific when it comes to culture and the team that we're building. Because that's something that you're never going to change about somebody. You can teach them how to use software, how to operate the robots, but their character is there, and it's such a big part of the team. And so as long as someone fits the culture and has the fire inside them, has the strength, physically, then we could teach them to do anything, and they'll be extremely successful at Kind Designs.
Brilliant. And finally, if someone still in the skills side, if someone were to ask you for one thing that you need to know or a skill that you need to have to be able to make it in this space, what would you point at immediately?
Grit. I don't think it's a skill. It's what's in your soul.
It's here.
Yeah. You have to be someone that's willing to like roll up their sleeves, get dirty, go all in. You're not going to build something transformative by working 9 to 5. No way. And when you do it as a team, it's so much fun. Every morning, I swear, I run a red light because I cannot wait to get to the factory. I'm like, oh, they're having fun without me already. And when I leave, like, oh, God, can't wait to see you tomorrow. It is the best when everyone has that mentality and you are going after something so much bigger than yourselves and you share that vision and you share that willingness to do anything together, to work all night, to sacrifice. It's a short ride that we're on, but it is a difficult one and the most fun I've ever had in my life.
Wow. I want to work for Kind.
I
love that. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. So many eye-opening things. And also, thank you for having such a huge vision that goes way beyond protecting anything in the luxury space, but goes on to protecting land defense, our people, the ocean, the species in the ocean, and really allow our buildings and infrastructure in Miami and beyond. I know that it'll go beyond really quick. And thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you. It was so much fun.
To everyone listening, if this conversation gave you something to think about, please follow and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Your support means the world and allows us to keep doing what we do and bring incredible guests on this podcast. And if you want to go deeper on a written analysis and insights on where the industry is going and the implications on the future, please subscribe to our Substack, where we go beyond the surface every single week. A lot of you ask us how to find us or how to work with us. Everything is on the link tree below on our show notes and on our website, beyondluxury.group. If you're interested in strategic advisory, speaking engagements, or anything else, please reach out. See you next time.